"Sir, my sister can't walk. Can we stay with you?" said the boy to the single-dad CEO at the shelter. It was just days before Christmas. Downtown streets glowed with festive lights. Storefronts shimmered in red and gold. Holiday music floated through the crisp winter air. Families hurried past, arms full of gifts. Children giggled beneath warm hats, gripping cookies and shiny wrapped boxes. Joy seemed to spill from every corner. But on a quiet sidewalk near a shuttered bakery, beneath the awning of a closed shop, two small children huddled together, cold, silent, and forgotten. Lucas, just 6 years old, sat cross-legged on the icy pavement. His coat, thin and soaked, clung to his small frame. His cheeks were flushed with cold, lips dry and cracked. A frayed backpack hung off one shoulder, the strap knotted to keep it from breaking. Inside was a crumpled empty milk carton and half a stale granola bar. Curled into his side was Ellie, just 3. She wore a scarf too thin for the winter wind. Her shoes were soaked, her socks no longer warm. Her feet were swollen and red from walking too far. She coughed softly, her face pale, her eyelids heavy with exhaustion. 2 nights ago, their world had changed. They'd lived in a damp, rented room on the edge of town. Their mother, Mara, a young widow, worked night shifts cleaning offices. She always came home before dawn. She always brought bread, or a smile. That last night, she knelt beside them, tucked her blonde hair behind one ear, and whispered, "I'm going to get bread. Stay here. I'll be right back." But she didn't come back. Not after an hour. Not after a day. Not after 2. Lucas had waited. He kept Ellie warm with the last scraps of food. He sang when she cried. He whispered stories when she asked for Mama. But when night came again and there was still no sign of her, he knew he had to act. He took Ellie's hand and searched the places they had once visited with their mother: the bus stop bench, the back of the church, the alley behind the dollar store. They called out, soft and hopeful, "Mama?" No answer. That night, they stopped outside a bakery, where warm light glowed through the windows. Inside, a little girl Ellie's age laughed as her father lifted her onto the counter. Lucas pressed his face to the glass. Ellie looked up at him and asked, "Lucas, do you think Christmas will still come for us?" He met her eyes and gently brushed a damp curl from her forehead. "As long as we have each other," he whispered, "Christmas will come. We're gifts for each other." Ellie gave him a sleepy smile and laid her head in his lap. She drifted off within minutes. Lucas reached into his backpack and pulled out a small yarn bracelet, blue and gray. Their mother had made it long ago. He wrapped it gently around Ellie's hand. "She'll find us," he whispered. "She's just running late." He laid Ellie carefully against his side and covered her with the scarf. He sat upright, eyes fixed on the dark street, refusing to sleep. As dawn approached, the sky turned gray. Snowflakes drifted down again. Ellie's legs could no longer move. Lucas felt his own limbs trembling, but he remembered a place: the shelter at the end of the street. They'd visited once with their mother for hot soup. Maybe someone there would help. He picked Ellie up, cradling her head against his shoulder. Her feet dangled limp, her breath was shallow. He walked slowly, the snow crunching under worn soles, every step heavier than the last. Warm yellow light poured from the shelter windows. Inside, volunteers handed out bowls of soup. A tall man stood near the front, ladling food into paper cups. Robert Hale, 38, CEO of Haven Tech, had come to help in person that morning, just as he did every holiday. He wore a dark coat and knit hat. His face was tired, but kind. Lucas stopped in front of him. His arms trembled under Ellie's weight. His voice cracked. "Sir, my sister can't walk. Can we stay with you?" Robert turned. For a moment, he said nothing. He studied the boy, the girl, and suddenly, in their faces, he saw something more: himself, years ago, holding baby Lily in a snow-covered alley. No words were needed. Robert stepped forward. He gently lifted Ellie from Lucas's arms. Then he knelt and placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. You're safe now, both of you." The shelter door opened wide. Warm light spilled onto the snowy street. The wind still howled, but something had changed. For the first time in days, Lucas smiled. The shelter was quiet as Robert stepped through the doors, holding Ellie close to his chest. Her forehead was hot against his neck, her small arms limp. Lucas followed closely, gripping the strap of his worn backpack, eyes darting nervously. A volunteer nurse looked up from the triage table. "She's burning up," she said, touching Ellie's flushed face. "And the boy, he's severely dehydrated, probably hasn't eaten properly in days." Robert didn't speak. He only nodded. "We're stretched thin," the nurse added. "The Child Services Center is full. No space for emergencies, at least not for a couple more days." Robert looked down at Lucas, who had settled beside his sister, holding her hand. There was no fear on his face, just exhaustion. He looked like a boy who had carried too much for too long. "I'll take them home," Robert said softly. "Just for tonight." The nurse hesitated. "Are you sure? You're all ready?" "I'll handle it," he said. "I won't leave them here to wait." An hour later, the front door of Robert's home clicked shut behind them. His place was warm, minimalist but inviting, tucked quietly at the edge of the city. Soft lighting cast shadows across pale wood floors. The snow continued to fall outside. "Daddy?" Lily called from the stairs, rubbing her eyes in her pajamas. Robert looked up. "We have guests." Lily's eyes widened as she saw Lucas and Ellie. She didn't ask questions. She simply walked over to Lucas, knelt beside him and said, "You can have my bed. I'll sleep with Dad." Lucas blinked, unsure. "Ellie can stay in here with you," Lily added, already pulling a blanket from the shelf. Robert carried Ellie upstairs, with Lucas trailing behind. He laid Ellie in Lily's bed, tucking the covers around her gently. "She needs to rest," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Downstairs, Robert warmed 2 mugs of milk with a bit of honey. He brought one back to Lucas, who sat curled on the sofa, silent. "It's warm," Robert offered. Lucas reached out, hands trembling. He took the mug carefully and held it, staring at the steam like it was something fragile. Then, softly, "Thank you." Robert sat across from him. They didn't speak again for a while, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. Lucas sipped slowly, savoring each drink. Later that night, the house was still. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch. Robert was in his study, staring at a half-written email, but his mind wasn't on work. He got up and walked quietly upstairs. Peeking into Lily's room, he saw Lucas lying beside Ellie, one arm draped protectively over her. Her breathing had evened out, and her cheeks were less flushed. On the nightstand sat a gray and blue yarn bracelet, worn, fraying, a reminder of their mother. Lucas must have placed it there for her before bed. Robert stepped in, picked up a blanket from the chair, and laid it gently over Lucas. Lucas stirred. His eyes fluttered open. Robert froze, expecting him to pull away. But he didn't. "Just a blanket," Robert said softly. "You're safe." Lucas looked up at him, eyes tired, but no longer afraid. He gave a faint nod and closed them again. Robert stood at the doorway for a long moment, watching them in the soft glow of the bedside lamp. These children weren't his. He hadn't planned for this. And yet, tonight, he was caring for 3 little lives, and it didn't feel like chaos. It felt right. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, warmth settled over the rooms like a quiet promise. And for the first time in a long while, something stirred in Robert's chest. Something like hope. The snow had settled thick and white over the city by morning. From his study window, Robert watched it fall like silence. It blanketed the roads, rooftops, and the bare trees. He stepped out of the room and walked to the kitchen. The house was quiet, except for soft cartoon sounds from the living room. At the kitchen table sat Lucas, small and still, staring out at the snow-covered yard, his hands folded neatly, posture too straight for a child. Robert poured 2 mugs of cocoa and set one in front of him. Then he sat. "Do you remember what your mother looked like?" Robert asked gently. Lucas didn't answer at first. He kept watching the falling snow. "She had long yellow hair," he said finally. "Not bright, just soft. She tied it to the side with a red band, said it was quicker when rushing to work." Robert listened, silent. "She sang every night, not good singing," Lucas added, almost smiling but soft. "She cleaned buildings at night, said night jobs paid more." He blinked slowly. "She kissed us on the forehead before bed. Every night. She'd say, 'Just hold on a little longer. We'll have a new home soon.'" The words hung in the quiet air. Robert swallowed. That line, "Just hold on a little longer," echoed in his mind. At a hospital outside the city, Mara lay motionless on a narrow bed, her pale face framed by golden hair. A nasal cannula gave her oxygen. Machines blinked quietly. A young nurse adjusted the IV. "No ID, no name. Brought in 2 nights ago. Severe hypoglycemia. Collapsed from exhaustion. Likely hit her head. She was soaking wet," she added softly. "Probably walking home after work." Outside the room, an elderly street vendor held a bouquet of wildflowers. She had visited each day since the woman arrived. "I found her," she told a nurse, "in the alley. People passed by, thought she was drunk, but her eyes, they were barely open, like she was waiting. No one knew she had 2 children wandering the city in the snow, searching for her." Back at Robert's house, Lily and Ellie were surrounded by puzzle pieces. Ellie giggled as Lily showed her how to match shapes. Robert stood nearby. Lucas looked up and asked, "Mr. Robert, if my mom comes back, can you not be mad at her? She didn't leave us on purpose. She must be lost." Robert's chest tightened. He looked away, nodded, then turned to his laptop. He searched hospital databases for any match. Nothing came up under Mara. He grabbed his phone and called Sam from Haventech. "Sam, I need your help," he said. "Check the last 48 hours. Any unidentified woman, around 29, blonde, found near the industrial district." A pause. Then, "Got it. I'll let you know." Robert returned to the table. Lucas was sketching with a crayon on scrap paper. Robert leaned in. A crooked house. Smoke from the chimney. 2 stick figures outside holding hands, one inside the house. "Mr. Robert," Lucas asked, "you already have a daughter. Why are you helping us?" Robert knelt beside him. "Because if I were your mother, I'd want someone to help you too." Lucas said nothing. He handed him the drawing. And in that moment, Robert saw more than a boy searching for his mother. He saw a child who refused to give up hope. A family may break, but love can hold. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again. For Robert, a man who had always lived behind reason and control, something was shifting. This wasn't about charity, not anymore. It was about choosing to be the kind of man the world needed. And maybe, the kind of man a mother like Mara could one day trust, with her children. And perhaps, with her heart. The morning sunlight streamed softly through the frosted windows, casting a golden glow across the hardwood floor. Robert was just pulling on his coat when a small tug at his sleeve made him stop. "Daddy," Lily said, her voice clear and firm, "I think Ellie should stay a bit longer. Lucas too. We made a team, the 3 of us." Robert turned to her, surprised by the quiet certainty in her eyes. Lily had always been warm, but reserved. She had never grown close to anyone like she had to Ellie and Lucas. This, he realized, was something different. He crouched beside her. "A team, huh?" Lily nodded. "We even made up a name." Later that day, a family doctor stopped by to check on Ellie. She was still pale, but the fever had passed. After a gentle examination, the doctor turned to Robert. "She'll be fine. What she needs now is good food, rest, and to feel safe." Robert nodded. "She has that here." Lucas was adapting quickly, though not without weight on his small shoulders. He helped Lily fold laundry, rinse dishes, and read softly to Ellie each night. His manners were gentle, his words polite, but one thing stood out most. Every night before bed, Lucas would quietly unfold a worn, thin scarf, the same scarf their mother had left them with, and tuck it beneath Ellie's pillow. He never spoke of it, but Robert understood. It was a tether, a reminder that their mother was still out there somewhere. Robert stood in the hallway once, watching as Lucas finished the ritual. He felt a tightness in his chest. Lucas wasn't just surviving, he was carrying the world for his little sister. Meanwhile, across town, Mara lay silent in her hospital bed. Tubes ran along her arms, her breath shallow. Her long blonde hair fanned out over the pillow like gold thread against snow. A nurse whispered to her colleague, "No ID. No one's come." Collapse from exhaustion, low blood sugar, head trauma from the fall. "We don't know if or when she'll wake up." Outside the room, an old flower vendor stood quietly with a paper bag of daisies. She placed them near Mara's bed and murmured, "Come back, sweet girl. 2 little ones are waiting." Back at home, Lily and Ellie were sitting on the rug, working on a puzzle. Robert watched from the doorway, warmth stirring in his chest. Lucas sat nearby, flipping through a book, though he wasn't really reading. "Mr. Robert," Lucas said softly, "if my mom comes back, please don't be mad at her. She didn't leave us. Maybe she's just lost." Robert felt a lump rise in his throat. He nodded and turned to his laptop. He opened every list he could find. Hospitals, shelters, clinics. No one named Mara appeared. After a pause, he picked up the phone and called Sam at Haventech. "I need a favor," Robert said. "Check all hospital admissions from the last 48 hours. Unidentified women, around 29, blonde, last seen near the industrial district." "I'm on it," Sam replied. Hours later, Robert sat at the dining table when his phone buzzed. An email from Sam. Attached was a frame from a hospital security camera, a woman on a gurney, soaked from the rain. Her head was turned, eyes closed. Blonde hair, pale face. The picture was blurry, but Robert didn't need clarity to know. He printed the photo, walked into the living room, and sat beside Lucas. Without a word, he slid the photo across the table. "Lucas," he said gently, "is this your mom?" Lucas stared at the photo, frozen. Slowly, his fingers reached for it. They trembled. That's her coat," he whispered. "The buttons. She said she'd fix them." Then the tears came, quiet, raw, unstoppable. Robert rested a steady hand on his shoulder and let the boy cry. They drove to the hospital in silence. Snow fell again, softer than before, wrapping the city in white stillness. Lucas curled up in the back seat, arms tight around his chest. "Mr. Robert," he said, voice barely audible, "I kept my promise. I didn't let Ellie cry. But now, I'm really tired." Robert reached back and took his hand. Lucas didn't let go, and Robert didn't want him to. The hospital corridors were quiet that morning, the only sound coming from the soft hum of machines and distant footsteps echoing on linoleum floors. Robert walked beside Lucas in silence, his hand steady on the boy's shoulder. Lucas held a folded scarf in both hands, thin, worn, and carefully pressed. A nurse pointed them to a room at the end of the hall. Lucas stepped inside first, his small figure slowing as he approached the hospital bed. There, under a thin blanket, lay Mara, pale, unmoving, her blonde hair spread across the pillow like melted gold. Tubes connected to her arms. Her face was peaceful, almost too still. Lucas walked closer, careful not to make a sound. He reached up and placed his tiny hand gently on hers. Her skin was cold, but not lifeless. His thumb traced the edge of her palm. He did not cry. "Mama," he whispered, "we're here now. I brought your scarf. Ellie's okay. She didn't cry much. I kept it safe." His voice trembled, but his eyes stayed dry. He laid the scarf across Mara's chest and leaned in closer. "You can wake up now, please. We missed you." The room remained silent, except for the soft beep of the monitors. A doctor entered quietly and glanced at the machines. "She's stable," he said to Robert in a low voice. "She could wake soon, but we don't know when. Her body's recovering. Her mind might just need more time." Lucas gave a small nod, his gaze fixed on his mother. Then he turned to Robert. "I'll wait," he said. "Even kids can wait. That's what you do when you really want something." Back at Robert's house, the day moved slowly. Lily and Ellie sat cross-legged on the living room rug, folding napkins together like origami animals. Lily had brought out all her softest ones, the ones with the stars and snowflakes. She looked over at Ellie. "I think your mom is coming back," she said matter-of-factly. Ellie blinked, wide-eyed. "How do you know?" "Because my dad told me," Lily answered, folding a napkin into the shape of a bird. "He said, moms who really love their kids don't ever leave forever. They just get lost sometimes." Ellie paused. "Does your dad love you?" Lily nodded slowly, then smiled. "And I think he's learning how to love you too." That evening, Robert returned to the hospital. He carried a small backpack in one hand, dark blue with bright yellow zippers. Inside were a few carefully chosen things: a coloring book, a pack of markers, a soft blanket, and a tiny flashlight that glowed like stars. When he walked into the room, Lucas was still there, his chin resting on the side of the bed, his eyes half closed but determined not to sleep. Robert knelt beside him and opened the backpack. "There's not much here," he said softly, "but maybe you can make this feel a little like home." Lucas opened the bag slowly, his fingers brushing over the blanket and markers. Then he looked up at Robert. "Mr. Robert," he asked, "if my mom doesn't wake up, would you still let us stay?" The question hung in the air. Robert felt his throat tighten. He looked into the boy's eyes, too old for his age, too tired to keep pretending. He exhaled slowly. "I wouldn't just let you stay. I'd stay with you." Lucas said nothing at first. Then he leaned forward and wrapped his arms around Robert's waist, burying his face in his jacket. Robert held him there, gently, feeling the boy's silent sobs press against his chest. No more promises, just presence. In the cold white light of the hospital, where so much had been taken from them, something was quietly given back. It was not a resolution, not yet, but it was the start of something better than rescue. It was the shape of a family, still forming, but real. Snow blanketed the city in white silence that morning. The hospital window frosted at the corners, letting in the pale light of a winter sunrise. Inside room 217, the only sound was the steady beep of the heart monitor and the soft breathing of a boy asleep with his head resting on a thin mattress edge. Mara stirred. Her eyelids fluttered, then slowly opened. The ceiling came into focus, white, sterile, unfamiliar. She blinked, confused by the brightness, by the stillness. Then she turned her head. There, curled against the side of the bed, was Lucas. His small hand still gripped hers, as if even in sleep, he was afraid to let go. A tear slipped from the corner of her eye. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Ellie, I'm sorry. Babies. Mama came back too late." Lucas's eyes opened. For a moment, he stared, unsure if he was dreaming. But then he saw her lips move, saw the shimmer in her gaze. "Mama?" he breathed. He shot upright, clutching her hand tighter. His eyes flooded instantly. "You came back. I knew it. I told Ellie you just got lost. I told her you didn't mean to leave." Mara smiled weakly. "I didn't. I never meant to." Lucas shook his head and leaned in close. "You didn't leave us. You just fell asleep too long. That's all." Outside the room, Robert stood near the door frame, watching quietly. He didn't move. He didn't speak, but in his stillness was something deep, a breath caught in the chest, a knot unraveling in the heart. He saw in that moment the exact thing he had feared and longed for, the love of a child and mother finding its way home. He stepped back, giving them privacy, and waited in the hallway, his arms folded, eyes trained on the tiled floor, lost in thought. Later that day, doctors ran a full examination. Mara had survived a deep concussion, extreme exhaustion, and severe malnutrition. But she was strong. They told her she would need to stay a few more days for observation, but she would recover fully. When Robert stepped into the room again, Mara turned her head slowly. Her voice was still faint. "I must have caused a lot of trouble," she said. "Are they, my kids, are they okay?" Robert gave a soft smile. "They're more than okay. They've brought back something I thought I had lost a long time ago." Mara looked puzzled, but he didn't explain. He just handed her a fresh glass of water and adjusted the pillow behind her head. A few hours later, Lily arrived with Ellie in tow, bundled in her winter coat, her small boots dusted with snow. Ellie stepped into the room and froze. "Mama?" she said, her voice a fragile thread. When Mara opened her arms, Ellie dropped everything she was holding and ran. She threw herself onto the bed, wrapping her arms around her mother's neck, sobbing into her shoulder with all the emotions she hadn't been able to say aloud. Mara held her tight, whispering over and over, "Mama's here. Mama's right here." Lily stood just behind Robert, watching with wide eyes. She reached up and slipped her hand into his. "Daddy," she whispered. "Now I understand what it feels like to have a mom." Robert looked down at his daughter and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. The moment felt like the closing of a wound, the healing of something that none of them could fully name. The hospital room, once sterile and quiet, was now filled with the hum of emotion, grief, joy, relief, and something else that lingered between them all, connection. Mara looked up at Robert, tears still in her eyes. But this time they weren't from fear or exhaustion. They were from knowing, finally knowing, that she and her children were no longer alone. The day Mara was discharged from the hospital, snow still lined the sidewalks, but sunlight finally broke through the clouds. Robert helped her into the car, while Lucas held the door and Ellie clutched Lily's hand, chatting about a drawing she had made that morning. Robert drove them not to Uncertainty, but to Haven Tech Shelter's transitional housing. The company had just launched a pilot program for single mothers, and this newly renovated wing would be their temporary home. Inside, the building was quiet and warm. A woman at the front desk smiled and handed Mara a key. "It's not much," Mara said as they entered the modest room with plain white walls and 2 twin beds. "It's a new start," Robert replied. "If you want to begin again, you could start with us." She looked up, hesitant. "You mean a job?" "We're hiring for support staff. It's not glamorous, but it's steady, and it comes with benefits." Mara nodded slowly. Her pride stirred, but it was time to move forward. "Thank you. I want to work. I want to do something again. For my kids." Just then, Lily appeared at the door holding a crayon drawing. "This is for you," she said with a smile. It showed 4 people around a dinner table, with a heart floating above them. Below it, Lily had written, "You're Ellie's mommy, but you can be Lily's mommy too." Mara clutched the paper to her chest. "I think I'd like that," she whispered. That week, Lucas and Ellie moved into the shelter's family wing. Robert arranged a private suite, small but clean, with 2 beds and a shared kitchen. As they unpacked, Lucas took out the worn scarf his mother had made and laid it gently on his new pillow. When Mara entered the room, he looked up and said, "It smells like home now." Nothing transformed overnight, but little things shifted. Lucas helped Lily with puzzles. Ellie followed Robert around the center, clinging to his pant leg like a shadow. Mara took her new job seriously, arriving early every day, eager to prove herself. In the evenings, once the kids were asleep, Mara and Robert often sat in the common room with mugs of tea. They talked about things they had lost, about broken families, choices made in desperation, and what it meant to be strong when everything inside said otherwise. One night, Robert came home late. Snow had begun to fall again. The apartment was quiet. He found Lucas asleep at the table, a pencil still in hand, a worksheet under his cheek. Robert draped a blanket over his small frame and turned to the kitchen. There stood Mara, warming milk on the stove. Her hair was tied back, and she gave him a tired, soft smile. Something caught in Robert's chest. Not fear, Not confusion, just a quiet ache. A sense of something right, complete. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, letting the warmth of the room settle into his bones and into that long-forgotten place inside him where hope used to live. They weren't a traditional family, maybe never would be in the usual sense, but something real was taking shape, slowly, honestly, and without need for definition. And in that quiet kitchen, surrounded by sleeping children, Robert realized he was no longer a man ruled only by logic. He had begun to hope again. Exactly 1 month after that snowy morning when 2 children appeared on the steps of a city shelter, Christmas arrived. Inside the main hall of Haventech, soft light streamed through tall windows while gentle music played. A modest pine tree stood near the center, decorated with handmade ornaments and paper stars crafted by children in the community program. The space buzzed with quiet joy, laughter, greetings, and the sounds of reconnection. Robert had planned the event not just to celebrate the season, but to honor the people who made Haventech's mission possible. Volunteers, staff, and those whose lives had begun again under its roof. Mara arrived holding Ellie's hand. The little girl wore a white dress that shimmered under the lights. Her blonde hair was tied gently to one side, just like Lucas had once described their mother. Robert caught sight of them and felt his breath pause. There was something steadier about Mara now, something luminous. Guests mingled with warm cider and cookies. Children played near the tree. At the front, a platform had been arranged for announcements. Robert stepped up and tapped the microphone. "And now," he said, "someone very special has something to share." Lucas, in a neatly pressed shirt and holding a folded piece of paper, walked to the mic. The room hushed. "My name is Lucas," he said. "A month ago, my sister and I didn't know where we'd sleep. We didn't know if our mom would come back. But then we met Mr. Robert and Lily. And now," he paused, unfolding the paper carefully. "Now we have people who make us hot chocolate, who wait for us at the door, who help us laugh again." Lucas looked out across the crowd. His eyes found Mara, then Robert, then Lily. "So I want to say thank you. Thank you to my mom for not giving up. Thank you to Mr. Robert for helping us when he didn't have to. And thank you to Lily for sharing her daddy." A hush fell, followed by soft applause. A few people dabbed at their eyes. Robert sat quietly, watching the small boy on stage. He had helped many children before, but this time it felt different. This felt like something whole. Later that evening, as music played and conversations rose, Lily leaned close to Lucas. "If Mr. Robert were your dad too," she whispered, "we'd be real brother and sister, right?" Lucas smiled but did not answer immediately. His gaze wandered toward the other side of the room. Mara was talking with a staff member, her laughter light. Then she turned and met Robert's eyes across the room. Her smile held something deeper than gratitude. It was quiet trust. Outside, the city bathed in amber light as the sun dipped low. That afternoon, Robert took the children to a nearby park. Laughter rang out as they chased one another through soft snow, wrapped in scarves and mittens. Mara sat on a bench watching, her coat buttoned snugly, her golden hair catching the last light of day. Robert joined her in silence. They did not speak right away. Then, slowly, Robert reached over and placed his hand over hers. It was not an offer of help, not charity. It was a beginning. And in that quiet moment, beneath fading skies and falling snow, it was clear. Mara had found her strength again. Lucas and Ellie had found home. Lily had a family larger than she ever imagined. And Robert Hale, once a man of solitude and structure, had finally come home. Not to a house, but to something better. A heart full of love. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey of resilience, love, and the kind of family that's chosen, not born. If this story touched your heart, imagine how many more are waiting to be told. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that hype button to support soul-stirring stories, where every click helps bring more meaningful tales to life. Your support means the world to us and the voices we share. Stay kind, stay inspired, and remember, Sometimes the warmest homes are built in the coldest moments.
Thank you for listening to this story until the end. Hopefully every moment, every detail in the story has brought you emotions, thoughts, and maybe a little joy or motivation. Thank you for spending time with us, and hope that the next stories will continue to accompany you and touch your heart.